Hi guys, it's Tuesday, and yeah, here's the update for today. Today we don't have a lot of sort of news or particular information that's timely, but I did want to talk about something. So yesterday's update, if you missed it, I discussed the major differences between first edition and second edition. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about a little bit more about that. In particular, I wanted to address the scenario book for second edition. So while I don't have sort of a working prototype of that, I can give you a sense of what that's about with sort of this white sample I have from a few years back. So this isn't going to be identical to the final product, but it will give you a sense of what that's going to be like. And I'll cover a few other additional changes and improvements from between first and second edition. And yeah, that's about it. We will continue to do live streams. I don't think I'll be doing one this evening, but I'd like to hear from you guys on when would be ideal, like if either to watch or to play, because it is fun to do them. And yeah, it would be great to have more backers involved in playing as well, because it's fun to teach the game to new players. Anyway, so the first thing, as I mentioned, I'll talk about is the second edition scenario book and how it differs from first edition, and also kind of how it will work. So here is one of the modular boards from Quad Heroes first edition. You can see it's got this lovely spot UV treatment on the water tiles, and this is the back side of this one. So this time around, we're doing a fold-out book, which essentially is the same size as the game board. So what that lets us do is make setup faster, first of all, and second, lets us do some things visually that and thematically that we couldn't do when we're having to sort of reuse these with multiple scenarios. So you can't have sort of custom borders and all kinds of things that you're unable to do with that kind of modular approach. So that lets us explore all kinds of fun stuff. But I'll show you kind of how this works. Some people have had questions about, the quality of the paper, like how big they are, that sort of thing. So if you look at the Kickstarter page itself, there's two or three spaces you can see kind of the scale of it. But this is an idea of, so this is a first edition board. So it gives us basically a two-board game, primarily because most of the action in most of the scenarios will be happening on these fold-out pages. And people have asked about the thickness of this material. This is paper still, and this is not a final. This was just a sample from the manufacturer from a while back, sort of a proof of concept. But this, if you look, I will say one statement sort of about quality of components, that kind of thing. If you look at the rest of this campaign, you'll see that component quality is uncompromising. And that's kind of how I approach games. When you buy a game from Wonderment Games, I can promise you that everything in the box is going to be top quality. We're doing factory painted minis for every piece of plastic in this game, outside of the dice, obviously. But yeah, so it matters to me, especially this is a Kickstarter version of a game, and I want it to be special. This is something that will probably be the best production of a board game, sort of a mass-produced board game that's ever been done. Maybe someone can question me on that. I have seen some nice ones, but I think we're going to be right up there with anything that's ever been produced. And I think by the time you receive the game, you'll agree. So it does really matter to me how durable these are, and I will make sure once we get into that pre-production process that the fold-out maps will be very high quality and as durable as they possibly can be. So that's one thing I wanted to address with this. And I have had questions about how many scenarios. There will be 10 fold-out maps, which is essentially 5 double-sided maps, which is 10 unique scenarios, which vary from player versus player teams. There'll even be a couple of co-op scenarios in there, like fully cooperative, with a lot of variety in there. 10 scenarios is quite a lot. And each one will sort of offer infinite replayability and a different kind of approach to playing the game. That being said, the intention is, and I hinted at this previously, but I kind of am making the commitment at this point that each of these scenarios will have a QR code on the instruction page, just a small one, which will link to a page on quadheroes.com, which has additional scenario options for that scenario. So completely different game setup and rules, but using the same map. And the reason I wanted to highlight that is just based on the fact that this is a very flexible system. A lot of games call themselves sandbox games. I think they're wrong. In most cases, there are, of course, others that exist out there, but this truly provides you with a game design toolbox. Even without, the first edition maps, if we reprint them, that does add some flexibility. But even without having first edition modular game boards, there's tons of flexibility here in terms of allowing you to use your imagination, create your own kinds of games and scenarios. So that I wanted to cover that and sort of reassure you guys that if you're concerned about sort of quality, size, flexibility, all of that, please don't be. It's like the top priority for me is sort of top priority when we head into production. All of the other components are already pretty solidly spec'd out. That's one, because no one's really done this before. People have done fold out or like books, Stuffed Fables, Jaws of the Lion from Gloomhaven, and a bunch of other games have used these kinds of books for scenarios, but generally don't fold out. And because of the nature of the game and the fact that I want these to be as replayable as possible, like last a lifetime, I will make sure that the materials that we use for these game boards make sure that they're as durable as possible, obviously within limits. I don't want people trying to physically tear the thing, but I want it to be durable and to last as long as you own the game. Okay. The other thing I wanted to discuss briefly is, because I haven't talked about it specifically, is the exploration deck. So people have asked, I've seen in comments and both here, YouTube, and various other places where people are discussing Quad Heroes, do I need to upgrade to second edition to play the second edition stuff? And the answer is fundamentally yes, you do, because a lot of things are different, particularly player boards, crystal powers, Q powers, that kind of thing. But also, the exploration deck itself is, a lot of the cards remain the same. There's a lot of familiar faces, like all of the runes that make tokens, that kind of thing. But there's also a lot of new cards in here that add more variety, because once we took the items and pets out of the exploration deck, I realized that we needed more different kinds of effects in there. So that means there are additional food cards, there are additional item cards that add new kinds of effects, fun stuff to the game. I can give a few examples of that. Bunch of new food cards as I'm digging through here. So this is prototype material. So these actually, you can't really see it here, but these are actually linen coated cards. And just because the factory, that's what they sent me as a prototype. And the first edition are not linen, and I really don't like linen in cards. We use the highest quality cardstock for the cards, but I prefer a smooth finish. I find the linen reflects the light, makes it harder to read. So yeah, they won't be linen, but otherwise, the best we can get in terms of card quality, and so that they will match first edition cards, so that you can have them. You can add your own first edition cards in there, promos, whatever you want, into the deck. There will be some differences in terms of iconography. Second edition has the icons in the top left-hand corner that indicate the phase that you play them in. So that's either green or red, because cards are only played in those two phases, outside of cards that have impulse, which let you play them in the other players' card playing phases, like this one, Potion of Roots. So we've done some updates to usability on the cards. That includes basically taking a lot of the iconography off of the cards. So last time, most of the cards had icons, which the intent was to have for it to be language independent, but they all still had text anyway. But for clarity's sake, we've gone to primarily, outside of cards that produce tokens, they'll basically be text. That just makes it clear, easier to understand how to play the card. But yeah, so here's some examples of some new food cards. And food cards are really where we added more variety. And also, like, there's a little more fun in terms of the artwork. So they're all still kind of potion bottles, but now we've added sort of non-liquids, like Boogie Bean's card here, which lets you activate a skill before you move, or like basically the face-up skill, which is a really flexible and fun card, kind of a rare one. There's one in the deck, and a lot of these are one-ofs in a deck of more than 70 cards, but do offer you kind of fun things you can do. Here's an example of a new tool card. It's a single-use tunneler worm that lets you make and use a tunnel basically right away. Kind of a fun card to sort of hold for just the perfect moment. There's lots of other cards in there too that are new and kind of add a little more excitement to drawing from the exploration deck and giving you lots of fun combinations and options on your turn. And yeah, so that's all I've got for now. I would love to hear from you guys in terms of what works for you guys in terms of live streaming, what kind of things you'd like to see. What I'm going to do is, rather than just being all gameplay live streams, I'll do some additional content type live streams where we talk about different cards and combos and the kinds of things that you do while playing the game without actually playing. And I'll probably do a solo playthrough as well, using second edition components, but with a first edition solo scenario, because we don't have the artwork for the game boards yet for second edition solo campaign. And I'd rather show you guys on something else, but it's also helpful for first edition owners to see that how the second edition and first edition stuff works together. So look for that soon. I probably will do that tomorrow. Seems like a good idea, maybe in the afternoon, and then post the replay, or in the evening. You guys tell me what you prefer. I guess everybody, it's hard to, when we have backers all over the world, it's hard to know what a good time zone is that lets people tune in live. Evenings are challenging because those in Europe and other places not in North America, it's going to be the middle of the night or just at an awkward time for them. But if I do it during the day, everybody here is at work, so it's really impossible to find the perfect time for live viewing. But all of the stuff that I produce, the videos, are on are on YouTube as well, on the Wonderment Games YouTube channel. So feel free to check them out there. And I'll sign out for now. There may be additional updates today regarding other things. I have had questions regarding stretch goals, and I've talked about that a little bit. My thinking is that I do want to add some actual stretch goals, which add some additional content that's kind of Kickstarter exclusive. And I have some fun ideas in the works regarding that. So yeah, and what I'm thinking with those stretch goals is just having sort of some token packs and stuff that lets you create custom content, basically. I mean, you can do that with the components that come in the box as it is for second edition, but having some new stuff that lets you sort of sprinkle in a little bit of interesting new board elements and stuff, I think will be fun. So that's kind of the way that I'm thinking about this for stretch goals. We won't have additional heroes. That's definitely not going to happen. Just from a cost standpoint, it just spirals because each hero comes with so many other components. It's not just the mini and the reference cube, but it's also the player board and the tokens and all of that stuff. It just costs too much money to add a hero, unless we somehow hit a miracle and start funding through the roof, and then unlikely that will happen. Future expansions for Quad Heroes will have new heroes for sure, but those will be sort of a whole other thing. But yeah, so there's not really a lot of quality of life improvements we can do. People have mentioned the idea of double layer player boards, but really not much sits on these boards that really is an issue. We have the Q power tile, and we have crystals and things that you're carrying, but it's not like that's being moved around a lot. It's not a factor like in a game like Terraforming Mars or some other game where you have a bunch of cubes on it, and if they move, it's a problem. It just isn't a factor in Quad Heroes. So the idea of a double layer player board, while nice, it's not necessary in this game, and they are quite expensive to produce. So the crystals will stay put where they are. The minis are kind of heavy, and even the tokens themselves, if you're using a retail edition, for example, that didn't have the minis, it's not really a problem with this game. But there may be other quality of life improvements that could be made depending on how funding goes. But I am working on sort of a tier where we can talk about stretch goals, but those would start somewhere around the 250,000-300,000 mark, just in terms of the cost on this game. Obviously, those of you who are Kickstarter savvy realize that $50,000 would not have produced this game. So that our funding goal of 50,000 was really what a lot of other companies do, and that's basically to fund quickly because that kicks in the Kickstarter algorithm. We can produce the game with where we're at now, but the higher we go, the better it is, and I actually creates the possibility of actually making money for Wonderment Games, and yeah, and so that's important. So I don't want to start adding too many stretch goals now because, first of all, a lot of people who do that on their campaigns, it's really false. All of those things were supposed to be in the game anyway. I'm already providing a game that is very top-notch in terms of production quality. All of the stuff in this game is the best it can be. And so I don't want to do anything like, oh, we're going to do better card stock or whatever. Like, there are already great cards. And all of those kinds of things. And doing other kinds of stretch goals where it adds additional physical content is fine, but only once we reach sort of a number of backers level where it actually makes a difference. The funding goal or level where we're at on the campaign is great, but we're still only at, I say only, but we're at 1,500 backers. Like the minimum print run for me realistically is 2,000 copies, and obviously I will produce more than we have so that I can have some to sell at conventions and that kind of thing. But I'm hoping that that we'll end up somewhere around 3,000 backers by the end of the campaign, and that becomes far more feasible in terms of adding additional content because it won't impact the price quite as significantly per unit. Anyway, no sense in getting too deep into that that topic. But yes, I think want to pursue the idea of stretch goals, but they're going to happen as we get a little closer to the 300K Canadian mark. It makes me feel a little more comfortable once we're around that territory. But I will start sharing some of the ideas I've got for that in the very near future. So we are on day 8 today. Day 8 is starting as of 2 p.m. today because we launched at 2 p.m. on September the 6th. We have 17 days left in the campaign, and I think it's going to be great. I think we're going to continue to grow. We'll see some blips where we have days where we grow, and we'll have days that sort of are relatively flat. But the more we're all out there, I say we in a collective way, just sharing our love for this game or our excitement about it, the better it is because more people will hear about it. All right, that's enough rambling for me. Thanks, you guys, once again for following along and for watching the update. If you've made it all the way to the end, congratulations. You rock, and I appreciate you listening. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, comments, suggestions, whatever, regarding the game, regarding the campaign, please feel to comment below this update or in the main comments thread, or send me a direct message. Sometimes the direct messages take me longer to see because I don't get notified about those. But yes, I will catch up on those today. So if you've sent me a message and I haven't replied yet, look for a reply today on that. And all right, I will see you guys again tomorrow. And yeah, look forward to communicating with you guys in the comments and elsewhere. And don't forget, if you'd like to sort of chat or connect with other Quad Heroes people. The Wonderment Games Discord server is a fun place to do that. A little community has sort of come together there, and lots of fun discussion happens there. And I'm not there as often as I probably should be, but I'm checking in a couple of times a day and replying where needed. But also, if you want to play Quad Heroes, I'm definitely on board with that, and happy to play with you guys. All right, I'll sign off for today, and I hope you guys have an amazing Tuesday. Bye.